with the consistency before applying. It's always possible to adjust it by adding a little bit more powder or water. We are going to start by applying material on the external corners. This is where we're going to be applying all our beading. The idea is to do all the external corners first and set all of our beads down before proceeding with the application. Once we finish with all our beading, we can then start to have a look at the rest of the wall where we are going to apply our mesh. It's good practice to overlap the mesh with the beads to ensure that we have a good anti-crack, especially in edges and corners. Make the mesh stick to interior corners as tightly as possible to make sure that we get a nice straight line, because once it dries, you won't be able to fix it. Be careful not to use a trowel or spatula too hard against the mesh, as you may end up cutting it, making it lose its purpose. It usually doesn't matter too much which area you do first, whether it's ceilings or walls. Just think about the access. Can you easily reach a certain part without damaging something you've already done? If the corners are giving you trouble, also consider using an interior trowel. This will help you to smooth them out nicely. When finished, we should hopefully end up with something looking a bit like this. Now we can start with our second base coat. First, let's make sure that the first coat is dry. Then we want to scrape off any raised bumps. We don't need to be too critical at this stage. Let's also remove the tape and apply fresh clean tape to avoid any chips. It's also important to brush away any debris. We want to have a nice clean surface on which to continue. Once we are happy with the surface, we can prepare the material for our next coat. By now you should have a good understanding of what to expect from the mixture. Remember that you can always adjust it depending on where you're going to be applying material. For example, you may want to have it slightly thicker when you're applying it on ceilings to prevent any dripping. Once we are finished with the second base coat, we want to remove all the tape while the coat is still wet. This is to avoid any chipping of the base coat or for the tape to get stuck. The coat should be dry fully in around 3 to 5 hours. Now we are going to begin our first decorative coat. This is the plaster that gives our finish the color, but also the one that is the key part of the application. It's where most of our work is going to be seen, and it's where our design skills are going to be put to the test. There's different types of applications that can be done. Here we're going to look at two popular applications using two different sets of tools. Before we start with the decorative coat, let's quickly go back to the base coat and finish off. Once the base coat is dry, you want to start by scraping the surface and removing any imperfections once again. We want a nice smooth finish to work on. Sand down any remaining rough areas using 80 grit sandpaper and take special note of exterior and interior corners as these were the most fiddly to do. Before beginning the decorative coat, we should have retaped the area, scraped and sanded all the surfaces, and also vacuumed the area to remove any dust. Once that's done, we can go on to the decorative coat. So let's have a look at the tools that we'll be using for this one. You probably see that a few of these tools are going to be the same as what we use on the base coat. The only thing that's really going to change is the main trowel that we use for applying the material.